So I've always had to stay in physical shape, but believe me, I have had more than my share of health problems. Fortunately, healthcare is on the national agenda in a way it has never been before. But it's only recently that the medical profession has even begun to understand that women's healthcare concerns are not always the same as men's. And it's not just because we have the baby. When I go to the doctor, I don't always present my problems the way a man would. I have a different way of speaking and expressing my concern, as well as different physical symptoms. Understanding these differences is crucial if we're going to provide good health care for women. Whether you're a man or a woman, we hope this program will inspire you to think about the kind of health care you want and need. As you watch, you're bound to have questions. At the end of the program, we'll give you a number to call for additional information. And now, let's begin. Domestic violence is the #1 cause of injury to women in America. It causes more harm than auto accidents, rape, and muggings combined. It can happen to anyone. And it does. The following story will surprise you. It's about a woman named Stacy Allison. She was the first American woman to climb Mount Everest. She's tough, she's strong, she's independent, and she thought it could never happen to her.
When you climb, you're in control of everything. Your thoughts, your movements, everything. You have total control of your body. And I guess on some level in climbing too, you learn how to get along in very difficult situations. And I'm not saying necessarily that this has anything to do with climbing, but I thought that I could deal with this situation. I thought I was strong enough to deal with it. But in fact, my strength was really my weakness. I feel at peace here in Zion. It's really where my heart lies. I guess in any place in the world, this is really where my heart lies. Before we were married, people tried to talk me out of marrying this person, friends of both of ours. And when people tell me I can't do something, my first reaction is to say, of course I can do this. I want to blaze my own trail. I've got to have my own experiences, which can be good, but it can also be very destructive. We were probably married 6 months before he hit me. While I was actually being abused, it was very frightening. I would always wonder how far it was going to go, when it was going to stop. Was I really going to be hurt?
She called me one morning at 2 a.m, just sobbing, and she couldn't even tell me what was wrong. I said, "Stacy, calm down, calm down. What is wrong?" And she would just say his name, and I would say, "What has happened?" And again, she would just say his name, and I would say, "Stacy, have you been hit? Are you hurt?" "Yes." I said, "Are you all right?" "Yes." And I said, "Stacy, you're not all right. You need to pack up your bag. You need to get out of there. That is very serious." "No, I don't need to get out. I just need somebody to talk to." I said, "No, you don't need somebody to talk to. You need to get out of there." And I said, "I will come and get you. I'll come and get you tomorrow." And she said, "You can come here, Mother, and I'll never come. I won't come with you. Don't come. This is my problem."
When you see the man that you love on his hands and knees crying and just pouring out his heart to you, you know, your emotional side just takes over, and you want to cuddle this person, you want to hold him, and you want to say, "Okay, I'll stay, everything will be all right." Because the Springdale is such a small town, everybody knows everyone else. You do communicate with everyone in this town, and you are friends with pretty much everyone. And I didn't want to cause waves. I didn't want, people to think bad of me. I didn't want people to think bad of my ex-husband. And what happens is that it almost bonds you tighter with your spouse, that the abuse does, because it's your own little secret that you're not sharing with anyone else. So you want to keep that private, and so you're even bound more than if other people knew.
I think I'd like to buy this.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can have it.
I'd like to look a little more too.
All right.
I need to get some postcards.
I was very fortunate in that there was kicking and hitting on areas of my body where no one else could see, so it was easier for me to keep that kind of a secret. Except what happened is that one day he did sock me in the eye, and it was something that I could not disguise. So we went to town to have our morning cup of coffee, and people said, "Wow, what happened to you?" And I said, "Well, I got hit with the drill." And people bought that. I mean, that seemed, it was actually quite logical, until I was at the post office and I ran into a good friend, and she said, "What happened to you?" And I told her the drill story, and she said, She said, "I know what happened to you." And it wasn't a drill. She said, "What is going on?" And at that point, I just burst out in tears. I mean, it was such a release to have somebody finally come to me and say, "I know what's going on. Tell me about it." This house was basically the last thing that I was involved with when we were together. When I first saw the house after the earthquake, I felt really emotional about it. I felt really sad. A lot of work went into building this house. The house was sort of, for me, a representation of our relationship, building of a dream, building of a life. And when our marriage fell apart, the house basically started to fall apart on its own. This was a half bath in there. And bathroom for the bedroom in here. I feel that there's a void here. When I first saw the house after the earthquake, it was very emotional. But at the same time, this was really the only direction this house could take. It would have taken somebody with a lot of love to have saved this house, and it just never happened. The one thing that my husband could never touch in our relationship was my climbing and how I felt when I climbed. And through the time that we were married, the 4.5 years, the only time I felt like a whole person was when I was actually climbing. Black. Now, we got divorced in 1986, and I was going to go to Everest in 1987. And I think the one thing that helped pull me out of my divorce, helped get me back up on my feet, was going to climb Mount Everest. I had a goal, and that was Mount Everest. And it was very therapeutic for me to have something grand to look forward to. It's then through those tough times on the climb and through the tough times in an abusive relationship that you have to look for strength from within, and you have to pull on that strength. You have to utilize that strength. And we all have that. We all have the courage and strength to keep moving. And it's just a matter of really looking inside ourselves. And that's when we can move forward.